Romania, a modern European state with one of the EU's worst corruption problems.
This country has suffered for many, many years. It has suffered forever because of important people that can do whatever they want and not get punished.
Now some are trying to root it out in an anti-sleaze campaign that reaches to the highest levels of government. We've been to find out why.
Filled with rugged mountains, dense forests, and spectacular castles, Romania is one of Europe's most beautiful countries. It is also one of Europe's poorest. Decades of corruption have pushed millions to the breadline, while the few at the top have grown fat, plundering the country's vast resources. But things are finally changing. Prime Minister Victor Ponta is the latest in a long line of politicians to be indicted for corruption.
It is a country that is now in a huge turmoil. Convictions are coming, arrests are coming up, indictments are coming up. Everybody talks of corruption. So it's a troubled period. But for us, the civic activists, this is good times.
Once dubbed the Paris of the East, Romania's decaying capital, Bucharest, is now being compared to revolutionary France, with the political, corporate and judicial elite suffering nothing short of a reign of terror, and not everyone is comfortable with it.
Foarte mulți adică toți cei condamnați și care sunt reținuți sunt într-un fel sau altul arătați în direct la televizor, defilând cu cătușe prin fața telespectatorilor. Asta nu mai e o societate civilizată, e o societate barbară, îl arătăm pe respectivul umilit, fost premier, fost primar, din punctul acesta de vedere.
What else can you do? I mean, this country has suffered for many, many years. It has suffered forever because of important people that can do whatever they want and not get punished. It's almost the arrogance and the spit in the face of the people for so many years, the humiliation, the shit on the street that is not taken away because nobody cares. Yeah, the only thing they care about is their bribes.
The nation is transfixed by the unfolding drama, which has seen almost 1,400 individuals convicted, including 5 ministers, 18 judges, 11 state prosecutors and 24 mayors. TV crews are on constant standby, hoping to catch sight of the next unlucky big shot summoned to the National Anti-Corruption Directorate, known as the DNA. Its chief prosecutor is Laura Kövesi, a devout Christian whose office is adorned with icons. Kövesi relies heavily on wiretapping and covert filming, which according to her is perfectly fine.
Acum trebuie să avem în vedere și specificul faptelor de corupție. Nu o să vedem niciodată un funcționar public care își va chema 2 prieteni să fie martor că el ia mită. Nu o să vedem niciodată un ministru care merge undeva în public și primește mită, ci atât persoanele care oferă mită, cât și persoanele care iau mită, întotdeauna doresc ca acest lucru se întâmple într-un loc ascuns, dacă se poate în secret sau într-o confidențialitate.
Nevertheless, it is clear that Romania's heavily politicized secret service, the RSS, is also involved. This was Romania's former Minister of Agriculture filmed taking a bribe.
Interceptările, supravegherile video sunt realizate de către Serviciul Român de Informații și la sfârșitul fiecărui comunicat, foarte important, DNA, despre o anchetă, despre o arestare, e trecut pentru prima dată în ultimii ani, unde sunt servicii secrete, apare suspiciunea că pot fi și obiective secrete.
But there is little sympathy for corrupt politicians amongst ordinary Romanians.
Împușcați, nu pușcării, împușcați, omorâți cu totul.
World Bank figures show that roughly half the population, some 9 million people, are living in extreme poverty. The rest scrape by, while a tiny elite squander the nation's fortune. It's another world. Take the case of Finance Minister Darius Valkov, obliged to resign in March after prosecutors found more than 100 paintings, some by Picasso and Renoir, as well as gold bars stashed away at several of his properties. Valkov had even hidden paintings in a graveyard.
În bunuri de valoare, am avut în acest an mai multe dosare în care persoanele suspectate de corupție au investit banii în tablouri. În prezent, tablourile au fost predate Muzeului Național în custodie.
It's a far cry from most Romanians' experience of corruption. They often have to make informal payments to get basic public services such as healthcare.
If you ask the question of who has paid a bribe, who has taken a bribe in the health sector, I'd say that the percentage you're going to get in the adult population of Romania would be heartbreaking.
Part of the problem is the appallingly low salaries doctors receive.
Vă pot spune că s-a manifestat un exod al medicilor din România. Este, din ce am înțeles, un fenomen general în Europa. Nu cred că este specific doar României, dar poate că România este un pic în top în acest fenomen. Medicii pleacă, au plecat peste 10.000 de medici din România în ultimii 5 ani.
Women from this cancer support group are obliged to pay a modest bribe in order to receive treatment.
În toate situațiile în care și eu am oferit ceva, am oferit cu drag. La cineva care m-a ajutat, care mi-a spus-o, da, necondiționat. Am oferit și probabil și cine a primit s-a bucurat. Poate din salariul acela nu poți să-ți permiți să-ți iei o cafea, care face parte din viața noastră de zi cu zi.
Despite a chronic lack of resources, world-renowned pediatric surgeon Horatio Sucio continues to perform life-saving surgery at the Infant Cardiovascular Institute in Târgu Mureș. Each operation costs around 15,000 euros, but with millions siphoned off public budgets by corrupt officials, he is only able to help a lucky few, and many children die.
Se poate, din punctul meu de vedere, fără să fiu un specialist în sociologie, dar consider că toate aceste legi și mecanisme de cheltuire a banului public trebuie să fie foarte clare, fără a lăsa posibilitatea unor manevre care să nu fie foarte transparente.
In a country where corruption is so endemic, few believed this could ever change. But last December, it suddenly appeared possible, when Klaus Iohannis, a rank outsider on an anti-sleaze ticket, unexpectedly beat Prime Minister Ponta in the presidential election. His victory was all the more remarkable since he belongs to a tiny German-speaking ethnic minority, whose little-known tragic story unfolded in the final years of communism. This is Transylvania, a rural backwater which in many places has hardly changed in the last 100 years. Once, 500,000 ethnic Germans, Saxons, lived here, but during the communist era, they were forced out by Romania's last dictator. Nicolae Ceausescu. Now, only 10,000 remain in the whole country.
Ich denke über 200. Es waren 200, ja.
At this Mass, the few remaining Saxons are gathered from miles around. The average age is 75. In a matter of years, Romania's Saxon community will no longer exist. There is understandable pride that someone from their tiny community is now president.
Der Iohannis ein guter Verwalter ist. Hat Hermannstadt gut verwaltet und wird auch das Land gut verwalten. Wenn sie ihm nicht Steine in den Weg legen, auf das kommt es drauf an.
In a country rocked by corruption, Klaus Iohannis was a breath of fresh air.
Trebuie să vă spun foarte clar, această fază intensă de luptă anticorupție este urâtă, este foarte urâtă. Iese la suprafață tot ce a fost și tot ce este mai rău și mai urât în politica românească.
With the powerful support of the president, Kövesi was able to turn her attention to the Prime Minister.
What exactly is Victor Ponta accused of?
Este acuzat de comiterea unei infracțiuni de evaziune fiscală, mai multe infracțiuni de fals în înscrisuri sub semnătură privată, fals în înscrisuri, și infracțiunea de spălare de bani. Este o investigație care este în curs și sper să o finalizăm cât mai curând.
It is alleged that Ponta took $72,000 from the law firm of a friend, Dan Sova, for fictitious legal work. On becoming Prime Minister, Ponta appointed Sova to several lucrative ministerial roles. Other close associates caught up in corruption scandals include Ponta's best friend, the media mogul Sebastian Gitzer, who is indicted in a case with Ponta's brother-in-law.
I am one of the best friends of the actual Prime Minister, Mr. Victor Ponta. We had the presidential campaign, and I fought with my political buddies in the camp of Victor Ponta. And after 2 or 3 months, this investigation started.
Investigații care îl vizează, una dintre ele a fost și finalizată prin trimitere în judecată. Este suspectat de o mită pe care a oferit-o primarului din municipiul Ploiești. În același timp este cercetat pentru fapte de evaziune fiscală, spălare de bani și alte fapte în legătură cu fapte de corupție. Este un dosar care este în lucru în acest moment.
If a person made a mistake, he's still a human being. He still has rights, and even if he's accused, he's not an enemy of the prosecutor, of the society, of the law.
For now, Gitzer still sits in Parliament, along with several other indicted MPs, at the Palace of the People, that titanic communist-era building which dominates the capital.
With the Palace of People, the monstrous building that Ceausescu built, I think it does something to the brains of MPs. They somehow get there and they imagine that they are, sent there by God or something. And we have had some who have verbalized that. Said, we're not ordinary people. Aren't you, really? Yeah.
The Prime Minister tried to introduce a super immunity bill aimed at protecting parliamentarians from prosecution. It nearly became law, causing public outrage. Keen to distance himself from the political establishment, President Iohannis is calling for Ponta to step down. But in a strangely ironic twist, he might himself now be taking advantage of the immunity the Prime Minister sought and failed to get. Iohannis started out as a teacher in one of the last German-speaking schools in Transylvania, in the regional capital, the ancient Saxon city of Sibiu, known in German as Hermannstadt. This is where he began his political career. During his tenure as mayor, the city prospered. So did Iohannis, amassing a lucrative property portfolio. Most of Sibiu's grand buildings, like the Bruckenthal, now a museum, were seized by the communists. But in a process known as retrocedation, people can claim back properties which once belonged to their families. These buildings were claimed by President Iohannis and his wife. But evidence has come to light that Iohannis allegedly used forged documents to obtain them, cheating the city of Sibiu out of hundreds of thousands of euros while he was mayor.
Basically, all his wealth is based on forgery. Based on a forged document, he managed to get a hold of this property in the center of Sibiu, and he rented that to a bank, and he made money out of that rent. With that money, he bought more property, and he got more rent, and he grew rich.
Paul Radu is director of the RISE project, which specializes in investigating organized crime and corruption.
We tracked down the paper trail, all the way to the 40s, and looking into what was the history of this building and how Mr. Iohannis got possession of it. We posted all the documents online for people to see. After we published, he just posted a statement on the presidency website saying what we wrote is not true, but without any argument, without any arguing about what we presented as evidence.
In Romania, the president, unlike the prime minister, enjoys full immunity from prosecution during his term, and as such cannot be touched until 2019.
I've seen the documents. They're quite compelling. We'll see about that, but it's not going to happen in the next 5 years. That would have to be left for the time when he's not in office anymore.
If the allegations against the president are true, his activities are symptomatic of a bigger problem that has plagued Romania since the fall of communism.
Basically, after the collapse of communism, public property moved into private pockets in a time when there was no justice system.
The result was a ruined economy, collapsed industries, and even when funds came into Romania from the EU for construction projects like motorways, the money disappeared and the roads were never finished. The effects can also be seen in Romania's spectacular environment. The magnificent Carpathian Mountains are still covered by vast tracts of virgin forest. They are home to almost half of Europe's brown bears, wolves and lynx. But powerful vested interests are stripping the forests bare. This logged-out hillside is the result of illegal retrocedation, whereby it was awarded by the state to criminals who falsely claimed ownership and then sold it on to timber companies. Much of Romania's woodland is administered by Romsilva, the state forest company.
They have been involved for many years in various corruption files. For many of them, they have been convicted. The management of the forest administration, but then the new management comes and they are convicted the next time around. So it's just like a disease.
Currently, the DNA is investigating a plot to transfer ownership of a huge swathe of state forest, covering some 430 square kilometers, to criminals in the province of Cavasna.
A fost implicat și un senator, un avocat care avea și calitate de parlamentar, Au fost suspectați și judecători.
Adam Craicenescu, head of the state forest, is also in the frame.
Sunt într-un proces penal la ora actuală, chemat în judecată pe motivul că s-a sprijinit punerea în posesie a 43.000 de hectare teren forestier, proprietate publică a statului, urmarea unei sentințe definitive date de tribunalul din Covasna.
The alleged plot sparked outrage across the country. Once again, a member of the Prime Minister's family is involved. His father-in-law, Senator Ilie Sabu.
Suntem parteneri de vânătoare, prieteni, și nu are nicio legătură cu retrocedări de păduri sau cu alte aspecte pe care le-a consemnat mass media așa.
Environmentalist Gabriel Paun has been probing this form of corruption for several years, but it's not without risk.
Haide sus, mă!
Is it my door closed?
During one investigation, his colleagues narrowly escaped.
Shit! Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God! I'm dying.
But Paun was left with the loggers for a beating. We caught up with an undeterred Paun on the trail of a logging road being built by Austrian company Schweithofer, who dominate the timber industry in Romania and have been accused of accepting illegally retroceded timber.
We are allowed to film anything that we think it's unethical, unsustainable or illegal. And
okay,
here we have...
I'm not illegal, I'm not...
You say so, but I have seen elements and I would say freeze any activity here. I want to know now who cut this tree.
I don't speak with you anymore because you are lying.
I am lying. You come here. Do you see a mark? A mark has to say with letters and numbers who applied the hammer. I don't see it.
Schweithofer's wood mills are devouring Romania's forests at a devastating rate. Perhaps unsurprisingly, Rom Silva is their most important supplier of wood.
Are you satisfied that these wonderful forests that Romania is blessed with are in safe hands?
Eu consider că Rom Silva reprezintă o administrație modelă a pădurilor României, pentru că Rom Silva, după 25 de ani de activitate, are și rezultate. Pădurile rămase în proprietatea statului pe care le...
In a country with so much corruption, I think that in the moment when we touch the last pieces of wilderness, it's a clear signal that the situation in this country and this forest is critical.
Back in the capital, it's late September, and despite his indictment, the Prime Minister has survived a confidence vote. Small wonder, most Romanians have lost faith in their politicians.
It's just the size of the problem is just immense in this country. And with every file, with every case file opened by the DNA, you see more and more dirt.
Romania's last dictator, Nicolae Ceausescu, bankrupted the country in pursuit of a megalomaniac dream to build the biggest palace in the world. Before his folly was complete, he paid with his life. With many of today's parliamentarians accused of bankrupting the country a second time, they would do well to remember what happened to their former ruler.